Welcome back. This is very long, but please read through. I'm an 18-year-old girl. I cheated on 2 of my previous partners. My most recent ex and first boyfriend, Guy 1, who I lost my virginity to, I started dating another guy, Guy 2, who didn't know I had a boyfriend either. This went on until I broke up with Guy 1, but stayed with Guy 2. At this point, I think I was in a phase where I was almost sociopathic, mainly due to influence from previous friends and Guy 2, who I think is sociopathic to some degree as well. I stopped caring about anyone's feelings. I was immensely selfish, and I didn't care much about consequences of my actions. While dating Guy 2, my second sexual partner, I had flings with other guys, but only a one-day thing. And only making out or kissing, never more than that. I started falling for another guy, Guy 3, but he was hard to get, and I've never chased anyone before him. Eventually I got to him, but we weren't officially boyfriend and girlfriend. At the same time, Guy 2 was being distant, and I suspected he was cheating. And after 2 months, he finally came clean and said things like he loves me more than her and blah blah. And I decided to just stay friends. Meanwhile, I told Guy 3 that Guy 2 was only my friend. Guy 3's amazing, but he's very religious and very against people who sleep around or dating in general, and I'm his first girlfriend. I lied to Guy 3 that I was molested to explain not being a virgin, and I didn't think I would last with him long anyway. A month later, me and Guy 3 were official. I meet a new guy, and we go out for one date and make out. Guy 3 finds out I was out with this guy, and we have a huge fight, but I lie myself out of it. And he thinks we only met for an hour as friends and nothing happened. After this, I realized I really want to be faithful to Guy 3 and that I really do love him. Changing was hard, but I did it, and I never ever wanted to cheat on him since then. We had sex and I lied about it being my first time and lied about everything in my sexual past. He's very religious, so having sex before marriage was a big deal for him. And we were pretty serious by then and planning for really long term. Few months later, I decided to cut out Guy 2 from my life. We were still friends, and on the same day I decided to do that, he calls saying his girlfriend found out about me and that he has to cut contact because he loves her and wants to be with her. I realized his coming clean was only because he found out I knew he was cheating, and being a guy who sees nothing but personal benefit and gain, he did the act to at least keep me as a friend he can gain help from and the such. The coincidence of me deciding out of nowhere to cut contact and him doing it on the same day moved me spiritually. And I was always an atheist, but for some reason since that day, I'm convinced and sure there is a God. I decided I would come clean to my current boyfriend, Guy 3, but he was going through very important exams, so I delayed the confession until after he's done, which is supposed to be next weekend. I'm somewhat sure he would hate me and break up with me when I tell him, but I was sick of lying and I really did honestly change. In my head, yesterday was the last day with him before I tell him next weekend and face the inevitable breakup. I made a mistake. I lied about being alone because he's the jealous type and doesn't like me being alone with a guy, even though he says it's fine, but he would be in a bad mood. I was depressed and frightened because the confession's coming up soon, so I called a guy friend who was nearby and we sat in silence in a public place, but it was enough to comfort me. My boyfriend Guy 3 suddenly shows up and things escalated because I lied about being alone. We argue and he demands I give him my reason. He has a temper, so he's yelling and punching things. I give in and tell him everything. He slaps me and yelled at me calling me slurs. I was crying, of course, and apologizing. Right now, I'm still trying to get him to believe I've changed over the phone and texts, but he insults me, of course, and my family and sisters, which really upsets me, but I deserve it, and I don't think I'm getting anywhere. If he ever takes me back, he wouldn't let me go out alone or have any guy friends, which is understandable. I don't mind any of these things, but I really do want him to believe I changed and forgive me. Any help will be highly appreciated. This made my head spin. OP, what is wrong with you? I doubt you changed. You had an epiphany for 2 seconds about fidelity after dating several men simultaneously, and you think your current boyfriend number 3 should believe it like gospel? Jesus, just stop cheating. And leave the guy number 3. Never stay with a guy that gets physical, ever. Comments. Sounds like a complicated situation, but he attacked you. Although your lies must have really hurt him, it's never an excuse for physical abuse. Take all of this as a lesson and move on. If you ever get back with him, you'll be fighting over this forever, because you lied and he hit you. Get away. This is domestic violence. Sure, he might even have a reason to be angry, but whatever your past, no one has any right to use physical violence. If you can still see the marks on you, the police are likely to believe you're a victim of DV. Edit. Speaking as another religious person, whatever good God brought into your life through him doesn't mean you need to stay with this man. Especially now you learned he has a violent streak. God hates domestic violence. Let guy 3 go, and don't rely on him to make you into a better person. It's clear God wants you to be a better person, but it doesn't have to be with guy 3. Story 2. I was with my ex-boyfriend for 7 years. I'm 22, he's 24. 3 years ago, I cheated on my ex-boyfriend. When I told him, he told me he's been emotionally cheating on me as well because he felt neglected. Which was true. I didn't care much about the relationship during this time. I still love this person with all my heart, and I can hear people saying, well, if you loved, then you wouldn't have cheated. And maybe they're right. But I think I was just too young to understand the meaning of a true and honest relationship. I was too scared of being committed to one person entirely at 19, and as much as I loved him, the fear of missing out on other things happening around me took over. What I did really hurt my ex, but despite my behavior, he decided that he really wanted us to try and push past it. He said he forgave me, and we didn't break up until almost 2 months later. But I'm sure me cheating contributed to our breakup. We continued to talk nearly every day after we had broken up. Eventually, it led us getting back together. I was so happy that I had him back in my life, but I felt like something was missing and I didn't know what it was. Even though we would hang out every day, it didn't feel right. When I would bring up the future, he would avoid it or change the subject. He wasn't affectionate anymore. He didn't want to take pictures with me anymore, didn't want to add me on social media. I knew something was wrong. I sat him down and talked to him and told him my feelings and what he wants. I told him that I feel like he didn't care much about the relationship anymore and where he sees the relationship going. He told me he was watching a show about a couple who were very lovey-dovey with each other and how it made him cringe and uncomfortable. Along with that, he told me he couldn't love me or anyone else 100%. He thinks this is because of his mother who passed away when my ex was 13. He also told he's been feeling depressed because of his job. This broke me. For some reason, I think this has to do with the past, even after he said it had nothing to do with the past or me. We both agreed on giving each other some space. It's been over a week since we haven't talked. I miss him so much. I want him in my life. I feel so alone. He says he still loves me and wants to be with me. How can I help him? What can I do to make things better? Comments. Cheating changes everything. It doesn't matter if it was 1 day ago or 10 years ago. The entire foundation of the relationship completely shatters once infidelity surfaces, because a relationship is built on trust and honesty. Both of those were ripped from the relationship when you decided it was okay to cheat because you were too scared of being committed at such a young age. You lied to him and deceived him by doing something that he would have never agreed to. Honestly, your relationship that you had with your boyfriend will never be the same. That doesn't mean you can't still have a relationship. But that does mean that you both have to now reevaluate the relationship that you have now and decide if you want to stay in it. Don't force the relationship. This will lead to trouble and unhappiness in the long run. Give him some time to sort his feelings. Although put a time on this time. I would say give it at most to the end of this year. Also, while I'm at it, I would recommend as a friend that he needs some therapy.